Hello, my friend, and welcome to Democracy 4. My name is Tobel, and welcome to a political simulation game. Now, Democracy 4 is not out just yet. This is an early look at their early alpha development build. It's not available on Steam, but you can pick this up if you so choose on the Positech store directly on their website. Currently in Democracy 4, we have two countries available, the UK and the United States, and of course they will be adding more countries with different scenarios, different emergency concerns. It's really fun because they give you a wide variety of types of countries that you can possibly play. Now we're going to start off by playing the United States because this was just recently introduced in the latest update. And our party name, I think I'm going to go with the Justice League. Justice League sounds pretty good. And we're going to be fighting again against the Holy Justice Alliance. There can only be one Justice Party in our country, and that is what we are trying to control. And all of these balances here can be adjusted, so you can have innate socialism, you can have innate democracy, or sorry, difficulty, political apathy, and stuff like that. Of course, the United States is under mountains of debt, so that is relatively accurate. And if you've never played this game before, democracy is a game. God, it's like a giant seesaw for politics, right? So you're making changes to your policy and you're trying to balance all of these different factors so that your country doesn't A, crumble and go broke, and B, try to form a coup and take you out of power. We are going to begin our term of office, and I will explain this as I go. If you've never seen this game before, you've got all these different icons on the map, and this is pretty much the game board. So, for example, we have our broadly speaking, our government is split into these different categories. So transportation, law and order, public service, taxes, economy, welfare, and foreign policy. Anything that's white or black on a white background is considered to be a policy. For example, if we take a look at right here, this is the community policing policy. This is what our current policy on community policing is. And as you can see, we can increase or decrease our policy funding. And when you change something, it's actually giving you a preview of what would happen. How would this affect your world or your country? So if we increase the funding to maximum for community policing, for example, we would increase the happiness level of liberals. We would reduce the crime, the violent crime and the racial tension. We would reduce unemployment, reduce antisocial behavior and alcohol abuse. And this little symbol means we would actually be encouraging people to become liberals and as part of a group. And there's the same thing for different areas. So I think if we look at, space program, for example, here we go. The space program encourages people to become part of the Patriot membership group. So there are these different categories of people. This is like how people identify themselves. So on the left side of the screen here, these are the groups or categories that someone might consider themselves. So if we sort by population, and then sort by the biggest, the largest group of people in the United States is capitalists, according to this. Now, people can be part of different groups. You can have a person who's strong as a capitalist as well as a middle income. Think of it like the D&D law and good and evil and law and order or law and chaos spectrum, right? So some people could be for liberalism, some people could be for capitalism, some people might be conservative versus liberal, capitalist versus socialist. And they might be part of the motorist group, or they might be a parent, or they might be poor. The blue, by the way, is just a situation in your country. So this is the overall amount of car usage in our country. And whenever you hover over something, you can see the direct cause and effect of that item. So for example, the fact that we've got a lot of cars here is negatively, you can see that red line going down here to the environment, it's negatively impacting the environment. It's increasing the rate of obesity, increasing respiratory disease because we are emitting pollutants rather. So lots of stuff like that. The fact that we've got tons of cars here is actually adding to traffic congestion, which then adds to other things like it negatively impacts our GDP. It also is causing a situation. So red symbols are negative situations. So for example, we have a problem called gridlock. Now, there are start triggers and stop triggers for all of these different events. So if we were to implement some things that would help fix our gridlock situation in our cities, eventually this would get removed and all of these negative effects would be removed completely because this is a temporary situation. So we also have antisocial behavior, we have disinformation or fake news, alcoholism or alcohol abuse, obesity epidemic, overall overcrowding in hospitals, we have respiratory diseases, and doctors are currently on strike in our country. And normally these events, by the way, these temporary events are really, really rough. You really want to try to work these out as soon as you can. Look how negatively this is impacting our overall health of our nation. So very, very important issues. Right here in the center is your political power. You spend political power to adjust different balancing conditions or different things here, as well as to bring in new policies. So we can actually add new policies that haven't even been introduced yet. So for example, there is somewhere in here, say for example, we wanted to, I think it's under economy maybe. What if we wanted to go to Mars? We could actually start a Mars program, but that would require 30 political capital, where we only have 16 right now. It also, of course, would bring in all these new costs to our government. So let's go ahead and start playing the game, and I'll explain a little bit more as we go. So here's the United States in a nutshell. We are 24 trillion in debt. It's no big deal, right? We are currently 41 billion in deficit this year, so our budget is in the negative, of course. We are spending a lot of money on the military, state schools, state pensions. We are paying already 100 billion alone in just paying down the debt, which is crazy if you really think about it. So our goal is to basically fix the country without pissing everyone off. As you can see, we've got a lot of capitalists. A lot of people consider themselves to be middle income or average Americans. We've got liberals. Religious groups, of course, is very strong in this country. And as you can hover over these different groups, by the way, you'll notice the different policies that affect their opinion. So the fact that gay marriage is legalized in some areas of the country, and gender transition is allowed, that is negatively influencing the religious category. And again, this is obviously, a lot of this stuff is going to be the opinion of the developers and stuff like that. You may not agree with it. That's completely fine, but we're just trying to take it as is, and we're going to roll with it the way the game is running kind of right now. So for our first term, I think I'd like to try to balance the budget. That's going to be my immediate goal. I want to bring down the deficit, and I want to try to nip in the bud a couple of these red situations. So I'm pretty sure we should be able to fix antisocial behavior. We should be able to start reducing the alcohol abuse problem a little bit. Of course, improving our medical situation would be very, very important as well. But if we increase the state budget, that is going to, or sorry, the state health services, that is going to start costing a lot of money. If we actually had excellent healthcare for everyone, basically, we would remove, pretty much eliminate the overall private healthcare industry as a whole. But look, we would be driving people to joining, basically to become socialists. We would be increasing the amount of income that state employees would have, and we would be hiring more state employees. And so more people would be considering themselves a member of the state employee group. We would reduce unemployment. State employees would make happier. So some of these are groups that we would make happy, and some of them are like other effects. So unemployment is an overall effect currently. And if I can go, I don't remember where unemployment is. Let me hover over our little hospital thing again. Poverty, there's unemployment right here. So here's our overall unemployment level, pretty high. I think it starts at 50%. So that's pretty awful. And you can see what this particular thing is affecting. So it is, I think it's caused by, yeah. So it's caused by or reduced by the fact that we're spending lots of money on military spending, because that's employing a lot of people, right? It also is showing you what's affecting it in the other way. So we are having unemployment problems a little bit because of our immigration. Unemployment benefits, some people just don't want to work. They want to collect unemployment. The GDP, the fact that maybe our economy is uncompetitive or not doing great, means that some companies just aren't hiring. Whew, lots of stuff to cover right away. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and go into the military spending. I bet, boy, what a great first item to start using your political capital. The first day in office, you cut the military budget. I'm pretty sure you might get shot, but we're going to wait a turn because I can't really reduce the budget as much as I'd like to. I want to take a big chunk out of the military budget, probably all the way down between well-trained and light defensive. That would wind up freeing up around $70 billion that we can then use to start putting into other social programs. Now, some of these policies have inertia, basically, where it takes them time for this policy to take effect. So if we reduce the funding to nothing, it would take us 8 turns, basically, to kind of reduce to reduce the military down to that level. And I don't remember if every turn is, I don't know if it's like a quarter. Each turn takes 3 months. So that would take quite a long time, a couple of years for that to fully come all the way down. So we probably want to reduce military spending earlier, if at all possible, but that is going to wind up, making a lot of people unemployed. So we also have to balance that out by creating more jobs. So let's do this. We have a couple of crime issues that are pretty easily handled. We're going to go ahead and increase the funding to community policing. That's just a basic level thing. Community policing is where, police will work with the neighborhoods. Officers live and patrol in their home neighborhoods. People get to know the police. Obviously, strongly reducing problems with antisocial behavior. We are reducing unemployment a tiny bit, crime, violent crime, etc., etc., and we are making liberals happy because this is a more non-violent form of policing. So this doesn't cost any political capital for us to raise the budget up a bit. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm also going to do a couple more things focused on alcohol. So we should have, under public services here, or is it welfare? No, it's welfare. We have an alcohol awareness campaign. So we're going to start putting out some video ads that basically target the fact that alcoholism's awful, and if you drink things, you're bad, and you're going to have horrible things. We're going to give them all the money. We're going to make the most awful alcohol campaign ads we've ever seen in our lives. So people are just going to feel so guilty that they just don't want to drink. On top of that, I'm actually going to boost the alcohol tax a little bit as well. So we're going to raise this up to 25%. Look, I like my alcohol as much as you guys do, but you're going crazy. We got to calm down on the alcohol consumption, okay? Everyone step back, have a beer, put down the gin, put down the vodka, and just walk away. So we've made some changes to a couple of policies. We still have 9 political capital. By the way, these people here are your ministers, your cabinet, and your cabinet will get experience the longer they stay in your government. However, they also have sympathies to certain groups. So if you piss off, for example, the self-employed and the capitalists, well, this guy is not going to be very happy, and his overall amount that he's contributing to our, political power is going to go down each turn. Boris Johnson here, who is in our welfare, for example, he considers himself a trade unionist and a commuter. So if we make commuters happy, he's going to stay happier as well. And his experience goes up, and his effectiveness, I think the effectiveness goes up over time as well. And that determines how fast and slow a policy change is introduced or modified. Cabinet members will resign in protest and stuff like that. So we will have that come up from time to time. So we should be getting, actually don't know how much political capital we get per turn. Let's just go ahead and end the term. We're going to save about 9 political capital. Okay, so here's our quarterly report. Here's how our country did over the last 3 months. So none of the big categories are changing too much. Poverty is actually getting worse. The green means it's increasing. So we're actually having a worse poverty rate because we just taxed alcohol, which is going to be consumed a lot of the time by the poor. So that's less money the poor have available because they're paying more into alcohol tax. But my goal eventually is to hopefully bring more people out of the poor category and into the middle income. Situation imminent. We have a data that is showing us that we'll soon have a skills shortage. Words are hard. Skills shortage would cause the following problems. It would reduce our overall education, our technology rate, immigration rate. And would it increase our technology? The strength of it would increase our technology. Skill shortage on our hand. Huh. Is this the cause? Oh, sorry. This is not the effect. This is the cause. Okay. So our education levels are reducing this problem, but the technology growth of the world at large is exacerbating the problem. So yeah, so skills immigration, we are getting skilled immigrants. That's trying to reduce the skills shortage. It's kind of hovering still, so we might not trigger that for a little bit of time. We do have an item here that we have to comment on. Children's food. A law has been proposed to regulate the fat, salt, sugar content, and nutritional value of food sold to children. So generally, these kinds of choices are going to make one group happy and anger a different group. So let's go ahead and regulate children's food. We all obviously have an obesity problem. This is going to anger anyone who considers those types of rights to be of the rights of the parents, which is a completely valid argument. We're going to piss them off anyway. So we're going to make parents happy. We're going to reduce obesity, but capitalists don't like the government messing around in free school lunch or in school lunches and stuff like that. So they're unhappy, but our overall health has gone up, and we took a big chunk out of the obesity epidemic. Budget report, we have a small budget deficit, so that's been reduced from the last quarter. Has it been? Do we have 28 billion last time? Only 13% of the people intend to vote for us in the next election. Don't worry, we will fix that. I believe it. A security briefing. We also have threats in our country. So as we start to piss off different groups, they might form or join membership groups here and then become a bigger threat. So if we piss off the Evangelical Alliance, for example, they might start trying to blow me up. Keep that in mind. We'll occasionally pander to some groups to keep them a little bit happy here and there. This is a great game to pair, by the way, with West Wing or another political show of your choice. It's really fun to play. So we have 25 political power. And really quick, in case you didn't know, the little green outline on any of these policies indicates how far you're able to reduce or change a policy. So for example, the fact that we've got green to the left means that we should be able to go all the way down. If we were to go here, if we tried to increase it to the right, we wouldn't be able to do that. So that's the section of red that matches up. So right in the center is where you are. We couldn't afford to increase it all the way. This is grayed out because we actually are at the maximum value. We could not increase the sales tax or income tax too high because we don't have enough political capital. So that's what, at a glance, it's telling you what policies you can afford to change. So we're going to take a really massive chunk out of our military. We're going to go ahead and go down to probably just before. Oh, is this all 25%? Yeah, it's all 22 capital. So anything down here is all going to cost 22 capital. So I guess what we'll do, boy, we're going to be angry in the Patriot group pretty hardcore. So this would keep the Patriots neutral. We would lose a lot of positive support. We would gain a lot, make a lot of liberals happy, reduce the private space industry a little bit as well. Interesting that the military spending increases private space industry, but if we invest in our space program, that would do the same thing. That would encourage other private space industries to cooperate and try to make advancements in that area. Strong leader. Is this an opinion? I think this is an opinion of our actual president. But we're going to go ahead and reduce this. We're going to cut this down to about 80 billion a year. This is freeing up so much money. However, this is going to have a pretty big impact. So we definitely need to use this money that we're going to be freeing up pretty soon. We have 3 political power left. What else can we start working on? We need to start taking chunks out of our health problem. The alcohol problem should start seeing some improvements over time. So as our community policing ramps up, you will start seeing things like crime and alcohol abuse go down. Antisocial behavior already starting to take a dip. That is when we implemented the increase in community policing. Red generally means that something is pulling it down. So this is causing a decrease in this value, is why that's colored red. Doesn't necessarily mean bad. It just means that it's kind of pulling it down. All right, what else can we change here? Let's look at some other random policies. I think I'd like to focus on, there's tobacco. Tobacco might help us with our breathing problem epidemic. We have health food subsidies, heating healthy campaign. Let's do a couple. Let's do keep the country tidy. We're going to go ahead and try to get a little ahead of the curve in terms of the environment. So we're going to try to start improving the environment. We'll put some money into that. And I don't think we have any money for anything else. So we're going to go ahead and end the turn, or money. We don't have any more political capital. Public smoking ban. There are a number of suspected links between smoking and poor health. You don't say. We're going to ban public smoking. You can't smoke because it's bad. And we're going to say the government's going to come down and tell you what you can and cannot do. Of course, liberals are very unhappy with that because liberals don't enjoy being told what they can and can't do with their own, private things they've purchased. Tobacco use is going to take a massive negative, but we are going to improve the environment a little bit. Crime is getting lower. Crime is in the green right now. You can see health is improving as well. But we do have an unemployment rate going up. So just because it's green doesn't mean it's bad. Unemployment is going up, which is not a great thing. Remember, we are starting to kick people out of the military. We're early retiring people. We're forcibly removing them. Our data is showing us that we will have a potentially bad contagious disease on our hands. Oh boy, you don't say. It's almost like there's COVID. And interestingly, the developers have included very modern problems in the game. I think they're a little bit light on the US for racial tension because obviously if you've been in the news or read the news at all, the United States currently is in a situation where there is some pretty strong racial issues going on in the US. And I don't think that's really dealt with here. And I appreciate when the game delves into some hard issues. Why not? Why ignore it? If this is a political game, then own it. And I think the developers do a pretty good job. Again, this is early alpha, so some balancing still has to take effect. So how is our alcohol situation? It's starting to go down. Awesome. What about the obesity crisis? We are taking a chunk out of obesity. It's gross. We do have our respiratory disease, which is really, really high, but that's going to take a while to bring down. So it looks like, according to our information there at the screen, we are going to have a possible contagious disease. What is causing this? Poverty, pollution, the fact that our hospitals are overcrowded and our doctors are striking are a pretty major issue. So here's what we're going to do. We just tried to free up a bunch of money from the military. We're going to reinvest that into our state healthcare. So this is state schools. Let's go find state healthcare somewhere in here. Where did my state healthcare go? There it goes. All right. So if we were to invest, wow, look at that cost though. That's almost all of the money we freed up. from the military would go right back into state health services. That is absolutely crazy. I think this is basically government-sponsored healthcare. This is basically Canadian healthcare, right? That's what we're trying to do. The more we invest in this, the worse off the private healthcare business or industry as a whole is impacted. So this is going to be reduce the impact or the influence of the private healthcare industry. However, the more we invest, as you can see, heavily reducing hospital overcrowding. It also may affect the doctor strike. It doesn't do it directly. However, if we take a look at the doctor strike, one of the big causes, let's see, private healthcare is reducing this, unemployment is reducing this, wages, trade unions. So are they just happy with the fact that we are not paying them enough? Can we go over to wages here? The overall wages is a measure of a bunch of different factors. Our overall GDP, the minimum wage, unemployment are affecting this as well. It's crazy how butterfly effect this thing gets. It can really go down into a couple of deep crevices here. Let's go ahead and max this out. We're going to invest $115 billion in our private healthcare. Sorry, our public healthcare. Hopefully this is enough to stem the upcoming tide of a contagious outbreak. So we really need to heavily invest in that. We have 7 capital left over. Do we have anything health-wise? Public services here, healthy eating. This is a pretty cheap campaign to start. Only 2 political capital, very cheap to run. And it really doesn't do anything bad. It does increase our plant-based diets. Again, trickle-down effects. This stuff will impact over time. It'll force more people to a grass-based diet, more a vegetable-based diet, which means that's going to have increased water usage. So it's again crazy how far down these things kind of trickle down. We have a couple of economy things. I don't want to ignore the economy completely. What else could we possibly do? Let's go ahead and do, are we any law and order issues? Not really. Foreign policy. We could increase our tourism ad campaign money. This would increase our foreign relations and tourism. We'll go ahead and bump this to maximum. Tourism would directly impact our GDP, so that wouldn't hurt. Business startup campaign, trade, health stuff, free parenting, social justice foundation. We don't really have a really strong racial problem here, though. Where's the racial? Somewhere. I thought there was a racial measure. I don't remember where it's at. Where's violent crime? This is just, yeah, this is violent crime. Here's racial tension up here. So the racial tension in our country is very, very low. And in theory, this shouldn't be as low as it is. I think they're going to change that down the road. I never really seem to worry about law and order with the United States. I always tend to just bump community policing up. And eventually at some point, I'll bump the overall budget of our police force up a bunch as well. And it kills everything. Like, we have no law and order problems anymore. So dump a bunch of money in community policing and you expand your police force. So hopefully they expand the law and order system a bit. I feel like that's always been a little bit stale in kind of liberal countries or maybe European themed or Western nations. It's always been a little bit easier to manage. And I wouldn't mind some more challenges, especially with the current state of racial relations in the US. I think that would be an interesting challenge. All right, so we're going to go ahead and end the term. We've got 3 political capital left. We have a deadly virus outbreak. Oh no. Healthcare demand has jumped up by 30%. Everything else has taken a massive, massive dive. Health is going up overall. GDP is down. Unemployment is up. One of our major donors has abandoned the party. That stuff, I don't really know much about the donor thing. This is somewhere under, where is this under? Is this under our election thing? Achievos, policies, compass, changes. Where's my cabinet thing at? I don't remember where I found that at before. I know it's somewhere around here. Here's the major donor thing. Where do we look at our next election? Oh, electioneering. Here we go. So this is currently where people feel about us. Most everyone is fanatically opposed to us. So right now, if there were elections, nobody would vote for us too much. We will be able to make speeches, write a manifesto. Fundraising, by the way, I believe fundraising will change how many people are getting out to vote. That will directly impact that number. Again, I'm not entirely sure how these values play out. I haven't done much with electioneering, so I guess we'll just kind of see. All right, so let's continue to focus on health issues because that is a critical issue right now that we can try to work down. Obesity is starting to come down. The doctor strike went down a little bit because we did reinvest in our healthcare system. So the doctor strike hopefully might end relatively soon. Hospital overcrowding as well. Let's hover over hospital overcrowding. What could change this? Healthcare demand private healthcare is reducing the need. Healthcare demand is increasing this problem. So healthcare demand is spiking. This is because of COVID, basically. Is there anything we can do to reduce this? Obesity is causing a problem. Alcohol and tobacco use are causing problems. So that's why I like these items here, where you can kind of pull them back a little bit by introducing not bans, but increased taxes on smoking, or for example, these policies. Where'd they go? We had one here, somewhere here. Tobacco awareness. Here. Smoking causes cancer. It's awful. You're a bad person, etc., etc. We're going to try to reduce our smoking use a little bit. We'll also bump the smoking tobacco tax up a bit as well. And you can see these are broken into different categories. So if I were to trip this, I would have to pay 16 political capital. So I'm just going to go at just in that range right there. So just on the edge of the 8 political capital. There we go. We have a lot of traffic congestion issues that are negatively impacting the GDP. Commuters and motorists are not happy right now either. So again, trying to balance everything so that one group doesn't drive their houses or their cars into the White House to basically protest. So under transport, let's start focusing on some alternatives to driving your own car to work. So Telecommuting Initiative is going to cost upwards of $6.12 billion. And it's only going to take 2 political capital. So I'm going to heavily invest in a telecommuting initiative because guess what? This is what we're doing right now during the pandemic. So this should reduce. Now, this is interesting. This is not quite tied to healthcare. So this is a really big thing right now for us, is basically self-isolating. So I'm interested to see if they'll eventually tie that together with the overall situation with healthcare and our pandemic or what have you. Other policies here that I want to look into. We've got a cycling campaign. Carpooling. Let's go ahead and do carpooling. Again, just negatively a little bit. These little tiny changes can overall or lead up to a bigger overall impact in one of the categories you're aiming for. Let's also go for some fuel efficiency standards on vehicles. So basically, we're going to do a national thing like Virginia does. I think Virginia vehicles get an annual inspection to make sure your vehicle passes a certain emissions test. So we'll put all of our money into that. Pissing off capitalists, but it reduces oil demand. It does make environmentalists happy, but it does increase car usage, which is interesting. We're going to go ahead and do it anyways, because helping the environment is always a really ongoing battle. Whatever you can, you always want to try to do something to make the environment happy. Not necessarily the environmentalists per se, but definitely the environment. Our data shows that we are about to have a skills shortage again. And you know what? It's kind of just hovering there, to be honest. I don't think that's really a critical issue right now. Our overall health is continuing to go up, even in the face of a pandemic, which is a good sign. Unemployment is starting to go up a lot. So unemployment is going to be a massive problem because, again, we are laying off all these soldiers and veterans, so they don't have a place to work right now. People smuggling. A large number of people have been caught entering our country hidden inside cargo containers. So if we send them back, there's a strong chance these people will be put to death. So we're going to go ahead and allow them to stay. This is a humanitarian thing, and it will make, of course, liberals, ethnic minorities happy. As you can tell, the last few things I've been doing, and this is a fun way to track it. If you go into this, somewhere in here is a compass. It tells you where your policies, I think it was, where your policies have been going. So we started off already relatively liberal. Crap. Where'd my compass go? So I started off liberal, and it'll start tracking stuff as you make all of these different policy changes on each turn. So you can see where your overall style of leadership for your playthrough is going. So we're kind of at the liberal capitalist side of the house. We really haven't done much on the socialist front. We're kind of trying to balance that because you want to keep capitalists happy. If you turn everything into a socialist paradise, that's great. The problem is all of the people who are making money, the CEOs, the big companies that are helping your country to make a ton of money, well, they're going to go somewhere else. So you start to have brain drain and other issues like that. All right, so the situation in the country, we are $47 billion in debt still. So we are reducing the money going into military spending, but we've just replaced that with our state health service. So we are basically trading one thing for another thing. So we're still not great in terms of our debt. I wouldn't mind paying down the debt, but we are going to have to put some money into our social programs in order to combat some of these long-term problems. So alcohol abuse should stop soon, which is going to relieve or kind of relieve some of the stresses that it's causing, right? So it'll reduce this negative on health overall. It'll reduce the impact on crime. And as you start to free up, or I guess resolve some of these emergencies or these situations, they can kind of domino affect each other. They can start to go away one after another. So you might reduce alcohol consumption or alcohol abuse, which might then reduce the antisocial behavior, which might then reduce the amount of people not working. It's all related. It's crazy how in-depth this stuff is. Now, some things impact them more than others, yada yada. But let's see, how are the folks doing? Everyone's still okay. They're tolerating us. They're still not super crazy right now. Let's focus on the motorists just a little bit more. You can see commuters and motorists hate us right now. Absolutely hate us. And a lot of people consider themselves to be either a commuter or a motorist. So that's going to be a pretty big voter block down the road. So let's try to make their lives a little bit easier. So I'd love to do high-speed rail subsidies. That'd be amazing. I think you can do an entire high-speed. Where'd that go? High-speed rail subsidies. This would be a full-on high-speed rail system in our country. So this would be a massive project. It would reduce unemployment, reduce the amount of people using air travel, reduce the amount of people using cars. This would be a massive investment if we decided to spin up high-speed rail subsidies. The costs are high, but the benefits for commuters and the economy and the environment are clear. It also takes a while to get going. If I remember right, the implementation time is 16 quarters. So if we want to do this, we may want to do it earlier than later, but it's going to cost a lot of money up front. I think for the moment, we're going to focus on some intermediate steps that are a little bit less expensive. So let's go ahead and make some more bus lanes. This should reduce the overall amount of people using vehicles, increase bus usage, and make commuters very, very happy. So this is all focused on commuters. Let's go back into transport. Anything else we can do to make motorists happy at this point? We could invest money into more road building. Where's my little road building symbol? Here's road building right here. If we invest a little bit more into road building, we would make, we would reduce unemployment. It's like the CCC campaign during World War II, where folks were basically put to work on public projects. We could have a nationwide road building campaign, would make motorists a little bit happier. But again, it does increase car usage, and I'm trying to avoid increasing the car usage right now. What other problems do we have? We have a environmental protest. Yeah, we are trying to fix the environment. We have a gig economy. This is interesting. A lot of people have jobs that are now temporary in nature, like a YouTube creator. Huh, interesting. So I don't know if this is it makes capitalists happy that people are in a gig economy. It is increasing the car usage. It is preventing people from joining or having people leave the motorist group and the trade union group, but it's really pissing off the trade unionists, although I don't know how big the trade unionists. Yeah, the trade unionist group itself is actually really small. Only 8% of the country consider themselves to be trade union members. So that's not going to be a massive voter block for us. So gig economy is not the worst thing in the world. Uncompetitive economy, however, is. That is not great, because that's going to negatively impact our GDP and piss off the capitalists. Productivity is starting to go back up again as well. Does that mean our overall GDP is up? Nope, GDP is down. But again, we are facing a pandemic, so that does make sense, right? Hey, automatic trading limits might make sense here. Frequent, limits? Frequency limits, trading delays, circuit breakers, high frequency total ban on automated trading. This would piss everyone off, wouldn't it? Jeez. This is like a brutal one. This doesn't do anything good for us. It lowers down the opinion of the capitalists, the wealthy. It reduces the income for the wealthy. It angers liberals. It makes the GDP. Boy, this is bad. We're leaving this one alone for the moment, unless there are massive issues. This might come into play later. Maybe there's going to be a technology-related issue that crops up. Also, this fake news thing. We have a state broadcaster. Let's go ahead and invest some more money into our state broadcaster. This should combat the issue of fake news. We're not going to go super crazy. Maybe just, I don't know, maybe like 5 billion as opposed to 1 billion. Yeah, a little 5 billion here, 5 billion there. You know what? After a certain point, you make up a budget. Okay, so what do we have in our last quarter? GDP is up. Health is up overall. School sponsorship. Is this like getting Nike logos on your school jackets? You know what? Our schools are places for kids to be educated, not brainwashed into buying this, that, or the other thing. We're going to do a solid for the big businesses. We're actually going to allow sponsorships. So we're going to make the, it improves education. Interesting. So it angers liberals, but it improves education. We're going to pander to liberals a lot during this playthrough, so I don't mind every so often irritating them to get a gain in another area. There is a budget deficit of 75 billion, which is awful. And we also have some threats still, although they are starting to go down a bit, which is pretty good. Where are we at in overall, how many people like us here? Voting intentions measures what percentage of voters the population intend to vote for you in the next election. So we've been making some really positive progress over the last few turns. And I think at this point, guys, I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in the video. Here's what we'll do for Democracy 4. I'll do like a short mini series. I'll try to play this through in a series of videos, or at least until we seem like the country's going on a positive direction. And we'll come back to it every couple months to see how the development is going. So thanks so much for joining me for this first video. Catch us again in the next one.